So just to talk a little quickly about really what kind of kickstarted my whole weight loss, weight realization, I suppose, and the challenges that I had, and what I tried to do. I suppose the challenges was I really didn't know. I would just be eating all the time, I suppose, haze eating, I heard it called, whereas you don't actually realise that you could be sitting there eating a bag of crisps and then eat another one. You don't realise that you're just continually eating. And then what I call panic eating, and for me, that would be coming into the evening and my body would be feeling hungry, but it would start to get into this panic, where it's, oh, you have to have something to eat now. So kind of my brain was not even engaging in saying, right, well, you're going to have your dinner in 20 minutes. It was, you have to eat 3 bags of crisps and a double-decker now. And then eat your dinner. And I think that, for me, was quite difficult to get control of, that whole frenzy. You have to have something to eat. And that really did take a while to get control of, but I'll talk about the solutions on how I did after. So, and I also had, because I'm a bit of a perfectionist, I had this all or nothing mindset, where as if I did have a slice of cheesecake, well, that was it. My diet was gone out the window. I might have to forget it. I'm going to be fat for the rest of my life, yada, yada, yada. And until I, realised that it's okay to have the slice of cheesecake. And it doesn't really, you have to stay on an even keel. So, and then what I found, I really didn't know what to eat for my body type, for my age. I was trying to eat healthily, what I thought was healthily, but I was feeling really hungry. So then I would just then go out for Chinese, which is actually okay, but I couldn't find that balance of how to eat healthily without thinking, oh well, I can only have a lettuce leaf today. And then I didn't really want to stop riding, even though at my heaviest, I suppose I was weighing 27 plus. I'd only just come back to riding, and I had the same horse for, he's 10 now, but I just didn't want to hurt him either. And I did have some bad falls off him, and I was really suffered with my confidence and fear. So I suppose I just talk about how I got through some of these things and how I got out the other side. So really for me, it was how to get control of my eating and learning what to eat for me. And that took a long time, and a lot of trawling through Google and talking to nutritionists. I'm very lucky. There's a guy in the town where I live who does really healthy meals, and he prepares each meal for what I need. So I didn't have to worry about having to cook in the evening for myself. It was already just planned out. So I only had to kind of worry about my breakfast and my lunch. And then because I cooked for my family, I could just cook them whatever they wanted, which is, made it a lot easier for me. And he's been really pivotal in helping me get control of and teaching me what I can eat. And 1,200 calories isn't enough. If you're out riding horses and farming and living your life, you need to eat enough to sustain your body and lose weight, but in the right way, in the right ratios. And then also that, like, there's no wrong foods, because for me, if I couldn't have a glass of wine or a slice of cheesecake, what would be the point, really? I didn't want to be on a fad diet. I just needed it to work for me, so I just needed to educate myself. But it meant that I had to take control of my life and give myself time to do it. And I also found that it was okay to have an off day, that if I really wanted McDonald's, then that was okay too. Having one day where you blow 2,500 calories isn't going to make you overweight overnight. So I did keep riding, even though I only did short bursts on my horse at the time. Maybe kept it under 10-15 minutes worth of schooling, just because I was just so conscious of my weight. But I did have my saddle checked every 3 months. We've actually changed the saddle 4 times in the last 2.5-3 years. I have my physio every 4 weeks to check in, and I have physio on myself as well, because I find that I get out of line, and then that doesn't help my balance. And then I just started to become much more body and balance aware of my own body, not on a horse, just in general. I just even running upstairs or doing the housework, which I hate, just all started to become easier.
I have a question, Emma.
Yeah, sure.
Sorry. So you started as an elite young rider,
Mm-hmm.
and at what point did you feel the weight going on, or did this start in your childhood? Were you aware that you might have to control your weight later, or?
No, I think definitely for me it was my first pregnancy, because I'd say in the first and second trimester of my first pregnancy, I was riding the horse I had at the time and still fitting into my size 10 show jacket. And then by the time I had her, I was probably a size 16, and it just escalated from there, because I rode, I suppose because I produced horses then from a young rider up until my kind of mid-20s, I was riding all day, always active. And then I had my children, and then I went into an office job. So I went from being really, really active to sitting for 7.5 hours a day. And I think that is where the weight just started to it just kept going. Because obviously when I was in my 20s, I could eat what I wanted, because I was probably burning huge amounts of calories riding.
Okay. I just want to bring Bradley in here. Why do women put weight on when they are, or why do some women find it difficult to revert to their pre-pregnancy weight? What is this about?
Well, there's a lot of aspects to that. Mainly is to do with hormonals. But what you've also got is post-pregnancy. You've also got breastfeeding, which has an influence, because if you are breastfeeding, then obviously your body has to produce as much milk as possible, and your body goes into a survival mechanism, which then also that carries on for the child as well, or the newborn. There's also, especially post-pregnancy, you've got things like postnatal depression as well, which has a huge impact. Because if you have postnatal depression, then you never feel good enough in any way, shape, or form. So then trying to lose weight, and you've got to look at the fact of losing weight takes a lot of conscious effort. You have to be very, very aware of everything. You have to be very aware of your mental voice, which is talking to you all the time and telling you, okay, as Emma said, is she would have an all or nothing approach, and then all of a sudden you suddenly have cheesecake and it just suddenly explodes. And you sit there and go, if you are also suffering with postnatal depression and generally life getting in the way, because you've got to imagine, if you've just had your first child, it is an experience. Once you've had your second or third or fourth, you kind of are in, what's coming. With your first child, you do not know what's coming. It hits you like a steam train. So you're there learning kind of and panicking. You spend your first year panicking about looking after the child in front of you. How many nappies has it done? How many poos has it done? How many this? Has it fed enough? Has it done this, that, and the other? So you, are much like your personal relationships and friendships, go down the rung of the ladder of focus. Your first focus when you're a mum or a dad is that it's that little kind of baby in front of you. You kind of quite happily ignore yourself. You are kind of just going, right, the priority is that little thing which eats, and then I'll grab food afterwards, or so on and so forth. Now that instills then bad eating habits, and there's a myriad of other things which also kind of continue after that. But that's on the assumption that you have a normal pregnancy. And I mean that in the most polite way possible. You've also got to consider that during pregnancy, you can get gestational diabetes, which has a huge impact upon people then trying to lose the weight afterwards. you also have, whether you have had IVF or a natural conception, because if you're having IVF, then you're pumping your body full of hormones, and your whole psychology and approach to pregnancy is completely different than if you are lucky enough to kind of conceive naturally. So all of these types of things not only have an impact on you on a physiological level, they also have an impact upon you in terms of your psychology as well. And that's what you're trying to marry. And this is why weight and rider weight issues are really difficult to unpick, because you can look at the science, but you've also then got to consider the psychology and the emotions and the history behind it. And that becomes really, really difficult, because some people, like Emma, she realized her eating habits. She kind of took control of that. She became very conscious of that, and she put in strategies in order to get over that, which is absolutely fantastic. Now, some people they don't recognize if they're eating badly. I know that sounds very odd, and it's quite fascinating with weight and food, is that we make excuses, or we do actually forget. I was chatting to a colleague and kind of client of mine, and said, "Oh, right. So how many kind of sugars have you had? How many sugary drinks and kind of had chocolate bars?" And she said, "Oh, no, none whatsoever." And I sat there and I went, "Well, that's a bit of a lie, because I was sat kind of with you for half a day, and you had 3 chocolate bars in the car." And she was like, "Oh, I forgot about those." Yeah, actually. And you're kind of like, right, okay, so that's and you people actually forget. So this is why losing weight, or kind of weight as an issue, it takes a monumental focus and a monumental consciousness awareness, for you to actually try and lose that weight, because there's so many barriers to stop you from losing that weight.
Yeah. Something just occurred to me there as you were speaking, Bradley. It sounds to me, obviously pregnancy is very primal, and it sounds to me like this primal urge to feed the child, maybe we're tipped over the edge on our calorie consumption, that our body wants to say, look, you've got a child to feed now, you've got to eat. But we're not in the hunter-gatherer
No.
environment now. So
what's quite fascinating is that how food has changed over the decades.